السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أرحب أنا زيد رقيب بالحضور الكرام، ممثلا عن المركز الوطني للتعليم الإلكتروني من العاصمة الرياض بالمملكة العربية السعودية. الندوة الافتراضية بالتعاون مع مركز اليونسكو الإقليمي للجودة والتميز في التعليم وتيتش اي اي تحت عنوان تسخير الذكاء الاصطناعي في تحويل التعليم والتعلم. وفي هذه الندوة نستعرض دور الذكاء الاصطناعي في تحويل تجارب التعليم والتعلم، بالإضافة لاستعراض الجهود العالمية في تنظيم استخدام الذكاء الاصطناعي في التعليم وتسخير هذا العصر لبناء نموذج تعليمي جديد، كما أننا سنناقش أمثلة واقعية حول كيفية استخدام الذكاء الاصطناعي في البيئة التعليمية. وأخيراً نحصر في ندوة اليوم التحديات والعوائق التي تحول دون تبني نماذج ذكاء اصطناعي في التعليم. وللتنويه ستكون الترجمة الفورية للغة العربية متاحة خلال هذه الندوة، وبإمكانكم الضغط على أيقونة الترجمة أسفل الشاشة. Greetings from the National E-Learning Center in the city of Riyadh, capital of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I'm Zaid Raqib. We are delighted to welcome each participant to today's webinar on harnessing AI for transformative teaching and learning in collaboration with UNESCO Regional Center of Quality and Excellence in Education and Teach AI. In this rapidly evolving digital age, artificial intelligence is poised to revolutionize education, offering unprecedented opportunities to enhance teaching methods and learning experiences. This webinar is designed to delve into the multifaceted role of AI in education, exploring both its transformative potential and the challenges it presents. By working together, educators, developers, and policymakers can harness the power of AI to create a new educational paradigm that benefits all learners. We are delighted to have with us today the lead of Teach AI and Chief Academic Officer for Code.org, Pat Young-Bradett, who will be the moderator for this discussion. Code.org is a nonprofit dedicated to promoting computer science education. Pat has influenced each stage of the education system, from policy to practice, in the legislature and the classroom. He was featured in the book American Teacher, Heroes in the Classroom, and has been recognized as a Microsoft Worldwide Innovative Educator. We are also delighted to welcome the distinguished panelists, Patrick Osteen, Director of Teacher Skills at Microsoft Philanthropies, Dr. Ahmad Najm Abdul Hakim Mustafa, Project Officer at UNESCO RCQE, Dr. Fatma Al-Gahtani, Lead Researcher in Knowledge Excellence at the National E-Learning Center. We thank these distinguished speakers for joining us today. So without any further delay, we hand over the virtual floor to our moderator, Pat Young-Bradett.
Thank you, Zed. Thank you, National E-Learning Center. Thank you, UNESCO Regional Center for Education and Excellence. It's great to be here, and I want to introduce myself by saying hello to all my fellow teachers out there. So whether you're in the kingdom and maybe you just finished a long day of teaching, or maybe you're on the East Coast of the US and you're about to start teaching, or if you're somewhere in between, I just want to say thank you. I used to teach for 13 years, science, special education, science and computer science, middle school and high school. And I appreciate the fact that if you're joining us after a long day, that you're here. And so as another warning, I'm pretty informal. So I have a presentation, and I'm also moderating this. And so I will ask questions of our participants and make sure that we all have a great time here and that this is worth your time. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start my presentation. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to give a presentation, and then each of our distinguished panelists will give a quick presentation. And then at the end, we'll take your questions. You can put your questions in the Q&A at any point, and we will answer them at the end. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. Wonderful. Okay. So the title of my presentation is Making the Most of This AI Opportunity. I'll talk about what AI is and why it's a big deal. I'll talk about the fact that we've actually been here before as an education system, as a global education system, actually. And then I'll talk about guidance and policies and why they matter when it comes to AI education. But first, you might want access to these slides that I'm about to show you. In fact, maybe you like to skip ahead and have something to do while you're on the computer looking at me. So go to my LinkedIn. I just posted the slides on my LinkedIn, and you can access the entire slide deck, at least my slide deck. So with that, I'm going to start with a little about Teach AI. Teach AI is an initiative, and it's led by Code.org, ETS, ISTE, Khan Academy, and the World Economic Forum. And the whole point of the initiative is to guide education leaders and policymakers in transforming education through teaching with AI and teaching about AI. Let's talk about what those things are. So teaching with AI is the idea of using AI as a tool for many things. It could be student learning, teacher support. It could be school management and operations. It could be about providing more security in your school. It could be about personalized pathways for students, and could be about creating lesson plans for teachers. Teaching about AI is understanding how AI works. And that pulls from fundamentals in a variety of subjects, including computer science, data science, social studies, science, mathematics, in fact, psychology, and lots of other subjects as well. And so that's teaching about AI. And when we say teach AI, we're actually talking about both. Because if you learn the basics of how AI works, you're actually going to be able to use AI in a more safe, effective, and responsible way. There are 90+ advisory committee members, including Microsoft, which you're going to hear about later today. We also partner with the National E-Learning Center as one of the government agencies that we partner with. There are actually over 60 or 70 government agencies worldwide, both in the US and outside of the US as well. And so here are some of those countries and states that are represented. So let's start off with what is AI, why is it a big deal? So all of you are here because you want to hear about AI in education, but we first need to start off with what exactly is AI. And so this is my 4 to 5 minute description of what AI is. And for some of you, this might be deeper than you've ever really understood how AI works and what it actually is. So here's a simple definition. AI is about programs or machines that simulate tasks that typically require human intelligence. Now, if you stop right there, it's very vague because you don't even know, like, how do you even define human intelligence? So it's very hard to understand, like, really what AI is from a definition like that. And that's the problem with AI. It's a very broad field and with a broad definition. And so you have to actually have, like, actual examples. So such as making predictions, generating content, and providing recommendations. So anytime you're defining AI, you always need to provide examples of what you're actually talking about. And when I talk about AI, I actually like to start before AI, or like the earliest examples of AI, which are just programs. And these are programs that represent expert thinking. And this is how AI started. Actually, AI started with this type of program and programs that would actually play games. And so this is pseudocode, so fake code, to show what it would look like to try to represent a doctor's expertise in diagnosing the symptoms for some kind of sickness. And if you could imagine multiple, maybe hundreds of these type of if-then statements all nested within one another, you can imagine how we could get close to a very specific task. And this was where AI started. It started with very specific tasks and human programmed rules. Now, I definitely am oversimplifying this. If you're an AI scientist out there, forgive me. But this is how I start to describe the idea of artificial intelligence. And so what happened a couple decades after the birth of AI in the late 50s, we got this thing called machine learning. And what happened with machine learning is we got more powerful computers, and we decided rather than using human programmed rules, we would actually feed the data into a machine and give the machine rules for learning from that data. And so this diagram represents like the way that a machine would create representations between all the data it gets fed. So the more data you have, the more powerful algorithms and the more powerful computer you have, the better machine learning you have. And out of machine learning, we got things like autocomplete texting, video recommendations, digital assistants, translation apps, et cetera, et cetera. Machine learning has been really, one of the biggest initiatives in AI over its 50 to 70 years. But then came this idea of deep learning. And so with deep learning, you have even more powerful computers and even more powerful algorithms that create layers and layers and layers of learning. And then you feed it a lot of data, maybe all the data on the internet. And out of deep learning, you get what we know as large language models. These models create representations among pieces of language, and then basically can mimic language as outputs. Now, large language models don't really know what's going on. They create outputs that look like plausible language, but they're not fact-based engines. They're not like search engines either. So never use a large language model or a chatbot like a search engine. It's not the same kind of thing. Search engines might use large language models to help in terms of the output, but large language models themselves are not like search engines. Very different things. And so large language models are a type of generative AI, but there's models that create images, videos, and music, etc. And for education, the problem is the issues, not necessarily the problem, but the issues that we need to overcome is a lack of transparency and explainability, meaning we actually don't know how these things really, really work and why they create the output they do and why they change the output all the time. Actually, we know a little bit about why they change the output all the time, but we can't ever like really predict the output. That's the problem. And so that leads to issues with trust and accountability, meaning like if you're a teacher and you're using a chatbot to grade students' assignments, you actually don't know how it's doing that. And you can't explain that. You can't explain that to a parent or a kid. And so then there are issues if you're pulling data from the entire internet, you're going to reflect societal bias, obviously, in the output because the data has bias in it. And the data has misinformation in it. And then students, we have to worry whether they're going to become over-reliant on these tools. Now, there are lots and lots of benefits, and we'll get into those benefits in a sec. But just a quick reminder, we've been here before. So calculators, math teachers were very worried that calculators would make students dumb, they wouldn't be able to add and subtract. And what we later found out was actually calculators helped math become more creative, more relevant, and more engaging. And you could deal with more creative problems rather than just trying to like just do long division. And so this statement was a statement about calculators early on in their history. And this same statement you can actually apply to AI. And so my point is that we've been here before with calculators for math education. AI is like a calculator for all of education. In fact, it's even more powerful than that. And so we've been here before. We will figure this out, but it's going to take all of us, all aspects of the education system to figure this out together. I'm going to wrap up by talking about AI in education, but my colleagues are going to talk about AI in education much, much, much more. So I'm going to speed through this. If you have, again, access to LinkedIn, I'll put that QR code up at the end so that you can have access to these slides. And feel free to use these slides in any presentation that you want to do as well. So there are a lot of benefits and risks of using AI in education. I'm actually not going to go through each one because you can read these yourselves. The point here is that there are benefits and risks. And actually, the benefits and risks are two sides of the same coin. Let me pick one of these. Let's pick the first one. So with generative AI, you can create new content. And for a teacher, you can actually differentiate content that you give to students, meaning you have different reading levels in one classroom. You can use the same text and create different versions of that text very easily with generative AI. The problem, the other side, is that there might be misinformation in it, and you're going to have to evaluate it as an adult. There might be errors, obviously, and then students might use that in dishonest ways. And so how do you deal with that? And so these are obviously two sides of the same coin. When we use a tool, we can use it for good, or we can use it for, I wouldn't say evil, but so not effective ways in education. And so ultimately, we need AI literacy. We need to help students and adults understand how AI works, how to use it responsibly, understand the social and ethical impacts, understand the potential benefits, and how to mitigate the risks. Anytime you're talking about risks in AI, you need to focus on not just what the risks are, but how to mitigate those risks so that we can realize the benefits. And so I'm going to end with this: guidance and policies. So this is guidance. These are principles for using AI in education. They start with understanding why you're using it, purpose, reaffirming adherence to existing policies you have. So AI it's another technology. You probably already have technology policies, technology ideas. It starts with knowledge, promoting AI literacy, understanding the benefits and risks, and ensuring academic integrity by teaching kids how to use these things in responsible ways. By the way, if you fear that kids are cheating using AI, you need to teach them how to use it in a non-cheating way. And then set out those expectations. Number 6 is about agency, making sure that humans are always in the decision-making role. And then lastly, evaluating how this is going and then improving the implementation of AI in your education system. You can access those principles and examples from all over the world, including the kingdom, at the teachai.org/toolkit. And you can also click that QR code, but that will probably take you to your phone. You can just type in teachai.org/toolkit. And then we also have some policy resources we just released, I don't know, 3 weeks ago now. And these policy resources provide ideas for school systems. It provides information. If you like this "What is AI" presentation, there's a brief about that on the website. We talk about AI in education in the workforce, classroom perspectives, and talk about students, teachers, and parents. We talk about US policy as well as global policy. So there's actually 2 versions of this brief. And you can access, again, this using this QR code or teachai.org/policy if you're on your computer. Basically, you can just go to teachai.org. So with that, I'll say that we want to make the most of this opportunity. And I'm super excited to introduce our next speaker here, who is Patrick Osteen. Patrick is a great colleague of mine. We've worked together for a long time. I'll have Patrick introduce himself and his work and talk about why AI matters in education. Patrick.
Thank you, Pat. I appreciate that. And great to be with you all today. Again, my name is Patrick Osteen. I am the Director of Teacher Skills with Microsoft Philanthropies. I'm speaking to you today early in the morning here in Seattle, Washington, in the United States. And like Pat, I was also a teacher for several years. And so echo his comments of appreciation and thanks for every educator and education advocate and leader that's taking the time to join us today. I will share my screen here as I have some slides as well. Let me make sure I've got that ready to go for everyone. So again, I'm with Microsoft Philanthropies, which is the corporate social responsibility arm of the company. And at Microsoft Philanthropies, we're focused on ensuring everyone has access to the technology, skills, and ultimately opportunity to succeed in the digital economy. And we do this through enabling nonprofits and communities with digital and AI capabilities to drive inclusive economic growth. Thanks again to Pat for moderating the discussion. Thanks again to everyone for attending today and being with us, and especially thank you to the National E-Learning Center for this opportunity for me to speak to you today about AI in education. So I was asked to speak about a couple of different topics from the perspective of Microsoft and Microsoft Philanthropies. One being just sharing real-world examples of how AI is currently being used in educational settings. Pat's kind of touched on that at a high level. I'll take that a bit deeper. And then the second piece I was asked to speak to is some of the common challenges and barriers to AI adoption in education. And again, I think Pat touched on that, especially with some of the kind of um, concerns and risks that need to be mitigated. We'll speak a little bit more in detail about that. So to start, just at a high level, and then we'll zoom into some more specific examples. Let's talk a bit about how how AI is being used in education today. So there's several different, categories here that you see that we'll zoom into some more specific use cases. So accelerating learning being one specific area. Improving efficiency is something you hear a lot about as it relates to the use of AI in general, generative AI particularly. Preparing students for the future, ultimately equipping them with the skills needed to be prepared for the workforce and to thrive in an AI-enabled economy. And then in the center of all of this, you see enabling equitable education. And we certainly see that as an outcome that we're driving towards within Microsoft, Teach AI, our partners, seeing this as an opportunity and a technology that really can help to enable equitable education for all. And so a few examples of this, going a little bit deeper, you hear a lot about personalized learning, personalized tutors. I'll speak to a specific example about that in a moment. Improving accessibility, whether that's things like language translation or other scenarios, and supporting students who have specific learning needs or disabilities, differentiation that's possible through this technology. Ways to engage learners in new and creative ways. Helping educators and education leaders analyze data efficiently, automating processes, saving time, unlocking productivity so that more time can be dedicated to really what matters most, which for teachers is connecting with their students, building relationships, understanding the needs of their students, and meeting those needs. From an IT leader perspective, there's security considerations and protecting data and some ways that AI can support in that space. And ultimately looking at that AI literacy piece that Pat was just speaking to and how critical that is today and for the future for our students. So Microsoft did recently publish what we call our AI in Education report. And so I've got a snippet here. I'll share another snippet in a future slide here. But one of the questions that we surveyed folks, and this is a survey of about 1,800 respondents from the United States, recognizing that the data that we see here reflected on this slide is actually, though it is a US audience, the more we've had conversations globally about AI in education, and seen research and data from educators from across the globe, this does align with what we've been seeing and hearing. Meaning that there's a variety of different use cases depending on the scenario. You can see here it's broken out by education leaders or educators or students. Each kind of user has a different set of use cases that they're already seeing as valuable for the use of AI in education. Whether that's summarizing information, brainstorming, creating new content, analyzing data, differentiating instruction, and ultimately, driving process efficiency. These are just a few examples of how folks are already using AI in education today. So I said I would share a few specific examples. One specific example here is from the United States, where I'm based in the central US, Wichita, Kansas. Wichita is the largest school district in Kansas in the central United States. It's a diverse school district. They've decided some time ago to really lean in and adopt Microsoft Copilot with commercial data protection as a tool through their Microsoft 365 license that they had district-wide, to ensure that every teacher had access to this technology that then allows them to reap some of the benefits that I was just talking about, particularly from the teacher perspective, whether that's from lesson planning and generating new ideas for how to differentiate specific lessons for different learners at different reading levels. Loads of different examples within that, and I can share the link to the article here that gets into more detail. But I think this quote from Diane Smilkarowski, who works with the Wichita Public Schools district here, really resonates in the way that they're seeing the impact of this already by having Microsoft Copilot with that commercial data protection and the privacy and security assurances that Microsoft offers as a part of that. And what she said is, students in our district have diverse learning differences and speak 112 different languages. Microsoft Copilot introduces the ability to not only find information with links to content sources, but also enables us as educators to make that information accessible at the reading level and in the language that a student needs. So you can see several different kind of benefits just wrapped into that single quote. As another specific example, and this is a more student-facing tool, I've been speaking about benefits to teachers. This is a tool that's free and available. It's an AI-powered tool that really provides personalized and engaging reading fluency practice for learners. So it's called Reading Coach, and what students who are using this tool can actually select from a variety of different topic areas to generate a unique and personalized story that's at their grade level, that's aligned with their interests. And then they would actually go through and read passages from that story and get feedback in real time from the tool in terms of their reading fluency, words that they may be mispronouncing and needing additional practice on. And then the tool adapts its future kind of outputs to the student based on that. We've been hearing a lot of positive feedback on this tool, particularly around the ability to engage younger learners in a way that's safe. It's easy to use for teachers. It's engaging. It's getting students excited about reading stories that they've helped to create and generate. And it's ultimately, again, back to that piece of giving teachers just more time to focus on connecting with their students, since this tool helps enable them to measure and track progress around reading fluency much more easily. One more example that I'll provide here. I know I've kind of been relatively US heavy with the examples that I've provided. I wanted to provide another example closer to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and some of the work that Microsoft has done with United Arab Emirates Ministry of Education and a company called ASI. That specializes in AI solutions for education. So a slightly different use case here, where the Ministry of Education of the UAE worked together with ASI to set a goal and a vision, really, to have a personalized AI tutor for every student. That's the vision that they have together. And to be able to operate at that scale and with the security and safety considerations that Microsoft can help support, ASI actually worked with and built and is building their AI tutor on top of Microsoft's Azure OpenAI service, which is really just a platform that allows for the creation and deployment of custom AI models using the latest GPT-4 technology. So I'll play a video here shortly. This is just a brief, I believe, minute and a half or so video that gives you a sense of the work that's happening in this space.
The education system in the UAE is growing and moving very fast to prepare the students for the future. Thinking of how can we support students outside the school and help the students who don't have access to private tutors.
So right after ChatGPT had come out, one of the things that the UAE really wanted to do was not just regulate like most countries in the world are doing, but really innovate. We're very excited by the AI Tutor project, where it can make sure learning happens anywhere and everywhere, provided to students in the country for completely free.
المميزات إنه it's available 24 hour وأيضا إنه يختبر الطالب ويسأله أسئلة على حسب السؤال اللي هو سأله.
I had an Arabic text where I put it in the system to check whether I have missed any grammatical issues, and it didn't fix it for me. Instead, it guided me to the process.
We use both Azure OpenAI and Azure Machine Learning to deploy the models for the AI Tutor project. we built something called PLMs, personalized language models. So over time, we're actually able to see how a student best learns, adapt to their strengths, their weaknesses.
It will help us offer our students personalized education.
Education is sort of ripe for disruption. We're very fortunate to find a partner like the UAE that's wants to make that disruption happen at a national level.
This will help us solve for quality of education, equity, inclusion. Generative AI is here. It's already transforming how our students learn. It's a matter for us to stay relevant.
I think this technology has the potential to completely reimagine the way every single student learns in the world.
All right, so hopefully that's another example that provides some color into the different ways that different systems and even at the country level are thinking about AI in education. Now, I mentioned I would be speaking to two different kind of topics. The second topic I was asked to speak to is just common challenges and barriers. As again, I alluded to and Pat alluded to, there are risks and certainly a number of considerations and concerns that education audiences, educators have as it relates to using this technology in an education setting. And so in that same set of research and surveying that was done that I pointed out earlier, there was a question around concerns and challenges that these different audiences are seeing as it relates to AI in education. And these concerns are, again, consistent with the conversation that's happening globally around the use of AI in education. You see at the top across all three audiences is related to plagiarism and cheating, as Pat mentioned earlier. Interestingly, we actually saw in our data, and this is validated in other studies, that students are actually even more concerned of being accused of cheating than teachers are worried about their students cheating. And so there's a great need for guardrails and expectations being set by education systems, by classrooms, by teachers around the responsible use of AI in education to help address that. Concerns that Pat spoke to earlier in terms of over-reliance or being overly dependent on AI tools. Concerns around privacy and security. What happens to the data that goes into these tools and how is it being used? There's a need for transparency there. Lack of guidance and clear policies and regulations. That's a big reason why Microsoft works closely with Teach AI and the work that Pat was speaking to in terms of the guidance and policy recommendations and resources that exist there to help support systems to ultimately support teachers and students. Concerns of misinformation and so on. So certainly a lot of needs to be addressed and urgency to address these needs because the technology is available and many are using this technology and may not have necessarily the guidance or literacy to use the technology responsibly. And we believe education and educators provide a critical role in that space. Just one other example of a study that kind of builds on this before I wrap up here is research done with Microsoft and an organization called the 4-H Council in the US. It's a youth development organization. And so this survey was really focused on young people, particularly in the kind of tween and teenage years, and getting their perspectives around AI. And largely what you see is optimism in terms of AI and how it can help them in education and in their careers. But the biggest data point that came through in this survey is that students really need the support of adults. They need guidance and understanding from the adult leaders and mentors in their families, in their communities, in their education systems, to help them understand how to use this technology and how to use it responsibly. And that's really just one of the biggest pieces that came through on that particular research. So I'll close my portion here by just sharing that Microsoft has a range of different free resources available to go much deeper than I have in the limited time that I've had with you this morning or afternoon in many of your cases. If you want to dig in and learn more, I've got some short links available here. Our AI and Education Hub is constantly being updated with the latest free learning resources targeted towards educators that can help you go deeper into your AI learning journey. We have an AI classroom toolkit that helps frame up how to talk about AI and responsible AI with your students. And we've got that AI in education report that I referred to some of the data points in here that has even more, including some recommendations within that report. So thank you. I'll pass it back to Pat. Appreciate the opportunity again, and look forward to continuing the conversation in the webinar.
Patrick, thank you so much for waking up early. It is now what? Okay, now it's 5:30 in the morning for you. Congratulations. Patrick, please stick with us. We're going to have some questions towards the end after our next two speakers. In fact, the questions have already come in, so I just want to recognize Mayada's questions. And Abdallah, I know you had a question as well. We'll get to that as well. But I am pleased to introduce from UNESCO Regional Center of Quality and Excellence in Education, Dr. Imad Najm Abdel Hakim Mustafa. Doctor, please come online and please let us know, how does AI transform the education industry?
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good afternoon to you all. Happy to be among you today to present a paper about a new education paradigm suitable to AI. It's Imad Najm Abdel Hakim Mustafa. I have a PhD degree in comparative education and education administration. I am the project officer of UNESCO RCQE. I have many papers and published studies covered fields such as internationalization, regional cooperation in education, joint degree programs, higher education competitiveness, world-class universities, school governance, federal education, citizenship education, personalized learning, school distributed leadership, and even adult education. In fact, we can say that education has always been a reflection of its societies to the degree that educators argue that what happens outside the schools is more important than what happens inside. So it always reflects all aspects of life, let it be economic, social, or technological ones. Here, as our concern is technology, education always used to be available, used the available technology as a means of instruction. In this way, while AI transforms all aspects of socio-economic life, we can consider it as a critical factor to education and will play a significant role in defining the very nature of future education. The main challenge was always that education used to be late in adopting technology. And for this reason, the launch of artificial intelligence in education has been postponed for many years, while applied sciences, industry, finance, and medicine have undergone deeper digital transformation. The question now is, what kind of transformation will happen in the future? We can say that the modern civilization passed through two kinds of economy. The first one is the traditional resource-based economy with its first and second waves of industry. It led to a mass production through huge factories. Schools in this stage was built in the same way. Schools are equal to factories under the hypothesis that one size fits all. The second kind of economy, which is considered now, is the knowledge-based economy, with the third and fourth industry waves, depending on communication, information, and communication technology, in addition to with the AI. It needs more focus on higher personal and mental skills, such as critical thinking, creativity, problem solving, in addition to cooperation and communication. It assured a different philosophy, which is the individualism, individualism that leads to personalization. In fact, personalization is not education at its essence, but it's social and in business world. So there was a study which was conducted on the world of business and gives such meaningful figures. About 48% of consumers spend more when their experience is personalized. 90% of marketers believe that personalization is the future. About 74 of the consumers get frustrated when content has nothing to do with them. In fact, these figures are rational because it's more human. Man feels very uncomfortable when the service or the product is tailored for him. Although these figures are in the business world, but education is considered as an industry, so the same figures can be applicable to education. In fact, it is very hard to hard and even impossible to achieve personalization in education as a social goods. So it is important now to think about one multi-sized institution. One institution, educational institutions, but they can give multi-sized services, educational services. It's also very hard unless the AI presents a magic solution for this problem. In this way, Gates predicted that AI will transform education in the next 5 to 10 years. It means that we will see a completely different system of education that's called a paradigm that is different completely from the system used now. It will do so by being able to adapt educational content to each student. Learn what motivates or causes loss of interest in each individual. He adds that even as technology improves, learning will still depend on the student-teacher relationship. This relationship will not disappear in the future. What is personalized learning? Personalized learning can be seen as an alternative to one-size-fits-all instruction. But many are confused about what is called differentiation and individualization. In fact, the difference between personalization on one hand and differentiation and individualization in another hand, that the first is his preferences, his interests, his skills, his mental ability, his capabilities are the main important for the program. While the second group, which is differentiation and individualization, is teacher's center, where the teacher tries to modify his way of instruction to each student, and it was very hard in the past, but AI can present a solution for this problem. In fact, personalization can be seen as a companion with two ends. The first one is teacher-centered with learner voice and choice. So the learner is only tries to participate, but the main ruler, the main puller is the teacher. On the other hand, we can see learner driving with a teacher as a partner in learning. The student as an individual is the center of the process. In between the two ends, we can find some kind of a mixture with learning the center and a learner center. The question now, what does AI present for personalized learning? In fact, AI can, with its programs with chatbots or ChatGPT, can present things to personalized learning. ChatGPT can be used to provide personalized learning experience for students by analyzing student data, such as learning style, pace, and preferences. ChatGPT can provide customized learning materials and recommendations to help students learn more effectively. ChatGPT can be used to answer queries in real time. Students can ask questions related to their coursework, assignments, and exams, and ChatGPT can provide answers in a matter of seconds. This can help students get the information they need quickly and easily, without having to wait. And stakeholders should be critical. We can depend on ChatGPT as a beginning point, not an end itself. And in routine tasks where it is perfect in such points. The second thing that AI can present is the virtual and augmented reality. In fact, especially in science and math, we have many experiments which cannot be conducted in labs, whether it is dangerous or really to do it. Such as atomic interaction, for example, it cannot be done in lab, but it can be seen in virtual reality. There is also the intelligent recommendation systems, and we have about 3 or 4 kinds of this recommendations or systems. The first one is collaborative filtering, which depends on the performance of a group of students that gives a reduction that people can perform in such order of order. The second one is content-based recommendation systems, and it is based on content, where every science has its order of presentation. So the content composes itself to present the sequence of information on the third one is a hierarchy or a hierarchy of the first and the second, and there is a fourth one, which is called the knowledge-based recommendation system, and it is uses the first 3 in addition to the interference of the human being according to the needs of the individual students. How can this benefit the stakeholders in education? In fact, researchers will play a very important role. Researchers will play with educators and students when using technology and the AI, and study how effective this interaction can be. Of course, these answer certain questions that can be presented to technologists who researchers can interact with them to develop AI in the same way. There will be certain recommendations for this interaction, and will be taken by the policymakers to get it and study and present recommendation to develop the educational that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Imad, and please stay on so that we can have a discussion per the questions that people are putting in the Q&A. That was a very insightful presentation. Now we have Dr. Fatma Al-Katani from the National E-Learning Center. Dr. Fatma.
Thank you so much, Bat. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank all the distinguished speakers for sharing their knowledge and valuable insights. Today, inshallah, I'm going to review the efforts of the National E-Learning Centers toward the integration of AI in education. You can see my screen, yeah? So the National E-Learning Center is actively promoting the use of AI in education through its research hub, sandbox environment, and intervention studies. Also, the center is investigating the current situation in Saudi Arabia to identify the pain points and find effective strategies for integrating AI tools and applications in the educational settings, also for fostering innovation and improving learning outcomes. Initially, the center has launched an initiative called Teach with AI, which aims to provide the educational and training entities with clear guidelines for the ethical integration of AI in education, also for ensuring the academic integrity and fostering the responsible use of AI. The initiative entails a range of different plans and efforts, starting from developing frameworks, policies, guidelines, and standards as well. Also developing tools, AI tools, to promote the effective utilization of AI in education. Additionally, the initiative seeks to encourage businesses and entrepreneurs to invest in AI in EdTech and promote further research and innovation and development. Firstly, the first products of the National E-Learning Center was published on December 2023. We have released our national framework for artificial intelligence and digital learning in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which aims to empower the use of AI in education and training. The framework is meant to be as a guideline that provides a strategic roadmap for decision makers that outline the development, the deployment, the management, and even the evaluation of AI in the context of digital learning. It includes a set of guidelines that has protocols, standards, and best practices, all adapted to the unique requirements of the educational sectors. The framework was developed based on various foundations, but mainly the existing online learning framework that's established by the National E-Learning Center. You can find it on our website. The second foundation was the guidance for using AI in education and research, developed by the UNESCO, which assisted us greatly in building our framework to ensure that the framework aligns with the global best practices. The framework aims to help education policymakers, public and private education system administrators, as well as individuals, to enable a successful planning and developing and implementation of AI in digital learning. It is built to work across all forms of learning segments, starting from K-12, higher education, TVET, as well as lifelong learning. As you can see here, the framework covered 9 main dimensions. These dimensions provide a comprehensive guidance for decision makers on how to maximize the use of AI in education. The main dimensions are firstly leadership, curriculum design and content development, teaching and learning, assessment and performance monitoring, ethics and responsible use of AI, technology standards, security and data privacy, student support, professional development, and the last dimension is evaluation and continuous improvement. I'll go through them in a bit of detail on the next slides, but you can check the full version on the link below. You have the PDF file. We welcome any feedback on the framework, as we aim to update it every 6 to 8 months to align with any updates in the field. So firstly, the first dimension is leadership. We have introduced some sub-dimensions, which are AI policy, which is about a set of guidelines and that outlines the entity's expectation for AI use in digital learning and to ensure the ethical and responsible AI practices in their entities. Also, we have set some guidelines for AI strategy, as it's considered to be as comprehensive plan that outlines the entity's vision, goals, initiatives for AI implementation in their context. Also, it serves as a roadmap for entities' journey with AI and digital learning, providing them with a clear understanding of their aspiration, objectives, and the steps they are required to do to achieve their goals. And another subdimension here is governance, which focuses on the rules and responsibilities for the individuals who are managing and supervising the use of AI in the educational entities. And also, we believe that to get the advantage of the use of AI, entities need to have an implementation roadmap that sets the direction and aligns with the objectives of their use of AI in their context. Moreover, a continuous needs assessment is important to ensure that the entity is using AI in a way that improve their practice of teaching and learning. The second dimension is curriculum design and content development. As you all know that there is a huge potential of AI in the content creation. So we have set some guidelines and standards that should be considered or kept in consideration when using AI in creating customizable learning materials to ensure that they meet the students' different or special needs. Also, guidelines for educators on how to get the best use of resource recommendation engines for having high-quality learning materials, saving their time and efforts in searching and evaluating different resources. Another dimension here focuses on teaching and learning. We believe now that with the use of generative AI in creating lesson plans, tracking student performance, and also providing feedback for learners and also educators about the student performance, that is very important. Also, AI tools could be used for the administrative tasks that educators used to spend a lot of time doing. Instead, this can be done by AI, and the educator can focus now on the academic development of the students and how to meet the students' different needs. The fourth dimension is assessment and performance monitoring, which is about the process of collecting and analyzing data on student learning outcomes to identify the progress and area of improvement for the students. This can provide the educators and teachers with real-time view and data about the student progress and enable them to identify the weak points or the struggling learners and provide the needed support at the right time. Also, AI has a big potential when it comes to generating questions and grading students. So we have set some guidelines that direct the entities and educators as well on how to use AI for these purposes. A very important dimension here is ethics and responsible use of AI. And this topic has been trending lately, especially since the rise of generative AI. Everyone's concerned about the ethical consideration of using generative AI in general, whether it's in healthcare, marketing, entertainment, and obviously in education. So we introduced some guidelines on what entities need to consider or keep in consideration regarding fairness and safety, understandability, transparency, and explainability of AI to ensure the responsible use. Also, guidelines for entity as they should increase awareness and make sure that all their individuals are aware about the complexity of AI and any underlying data ethics and how to adopt processes that enables ethical decision-making, which involves all the related stakeholders. For the technology standards, security and data privacy dimension, this dimension was set to help the IT departments and the digital transformation in the entities who are concerned with the data security and the ethical foundations when using different AI tools and applications. So here we provided some guidelines related to IT standards, cross-platform compatibility, and of course, security and data privacy management. Another main dimension is student support. We believe that in order to have a complete integration of AI in education, students need to be equipped with the right skills and knowledge that enable them to understand the potential, both the potential and limitation of AI tools, and to be able to deal with them with the AI tools in an ethical and beneficial way. Likewise, we have set some guidelines for the professional development for educators, which is about equipping the educators with the right skills, and they need to implement in AI in education, in the educational context. Another recommendation here regarding the importance of engaging the educators in the community of practice. We all know that many teachers and educators have great practices out there, and maybe no one knows about it using AI in education. So it's good that teachers and educators engage with the community of practice to exchange knowledge, share their practices, and also share the challenges and obstacles they are facing when adopting AI in education. Lastly, we all know that this field is rapidly changing and improving. So we have provided some recommendations regarding the continuous or the importance of continuous evaluation of AI tools in the entities, and if using these tools still meet the entity and students' needs or not. Moreover, conducting a regular evaluation of the entity's policies, strategies, the practice, the application that have been done in their context in teaching and learning, and based on that, improve the practice of AI in their context. As I mentioned, the framework is published on our website. We would appreciate if you check the full version and provide us with any recommendation or feedback. Moving now to our second focus, which lies in crafting a policy regarding the utilization of generative AI within the educational context. This policy aims to benefit from global best practices related to the governance of the use of generative AI tools and applications. It is established to provide the most optimal solution or the ethical usage of generative AI in the digital learning environments within both public or private educational and training sectors and entities. The policy covers what learners, educators, administrators, and entities need to know to ensure the effective integration of generative AI into the educational context and try to maximize the benefit and minimize the risks of using AI through maintaining the academic integrity and ensuring data privacy and security and other points. The policy is on progress. Right now, we are having the initial draft, and it's going to be published soon as well. At the moment, we are collaborating with different entities and having different stakeholders involved to ensure that the policy is robust and meet their needs. Again, once the policy is published, your feedback matters. We will implement regular evaluation and gather feedback from all relevant entities and individuals as well, to ensure that the policy remains adaptive and responsive. I'll just come by the implementation side quickly at the National E-Learning Center. The center is currently experimenting with different AI tools and applications, including content development, also trying different AI tools to track student performance and learning analytics. This has been done internally by our teams in the center in order to address the current challenges and find ways to improve the educational practices. Finally, the center is keen to partner and collaborate with stakeholders, either local or global ethics agencies and other nations as well, to explore new applications of AI in education and advance the innovation in the educational practices. Through these strategic partnership and collaborative initiatives, the center envisions a future where AI enhances learning outcomes and enriches the educational experience on a global scale, hopefully. This is all for me. Thank you everyone for your time and attention. Our journey doesn't end here. We encourage you all to share always your insights and explore further collaboration with the center. Together we can achieve great things, inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fatma Al-Khatani. That was a wonderful presentation. And I've always been actually quite impressed by how on top of the AI and education issue the National E-Learning Center is. So there are actually some people who asked for a PDF of the framework and how to connect into the resources that you shared. So maybe we can share them in the chat, or maybe people can just visit the National E-Learning Center and find those resources. We're going to go to a Q&A now. And this is going to be open to all of our panelists, as well as Zed, who introduced us at the beginning as well. So Zed, if you want to chime in on any of these questions, please do. But we're going to start off with one that is about, it came up often in the Q&A. So let me start by framing the question, and then I will pick one speaker to start answering the question, but any speaker can chime in on that question afterwards. So the question was about cheating and plagiarism, and there were multiple questions. Someone asked about how to minimize cheating and how to maximize academic integrity when students have access to these tools. Someone asked specifically about AI detection tools, and are they useful and should you use them? And then lastly, someone said, maybe we need to redefine plagiarism and cheating. Because if you're prompting a chatbot and you're reviewing the chatbot's output, why would that be considered cheating or plagiarism? So well, actually, Dr. Fatma, I'm going to put you on the spot. You just spoke, but so that means you're warm. Dr. Fatma, in any of the e-learning guidance so far, have you addressed the idea of AI detection tools or cheating or academic integrity?
Yes, we are now in the progress of crafting the policy, as I said. So the policy should include how students and learners should deal with generative AI tools in an academic and integrity, and ensure the academic and integrity, as well as there's some controls for the educators and the entities to ensure that the students and learners are aware enough to use generative AI tools in a matter that teach them rather than just help them like in cheating or copying the answer as they are. So inshallah, it's coming in the policy to ensure that both educators and learners use the generative AI tools in the right way.
Thank you. And Patrick, this question of AI detection tools, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, on a personal level and as a former teacher myself, I think you have to be really careful with these kinds of tools. I think they, my personal viewpoint is that tools of this nature can kind of work against the overall objective that we're trying to achieve, which is AI literacy for all, and teach. And I think a key component, as we've touched on throughout the webinar here, is of AI literacy is responsible use of this technology. And what Pat was teaching about, like with any technology and any tool, it can be used for good purposes, or it can be used for ill or misused. And I think education obviously plays a critical role in helping young people who are going to be citizens participating in the economy and in the global citizenry, that they know how to use this impactful technology responsibly. So my concern with these tools is that they kind of help, not help, but they put more of a fear into students about using this tool rather than being transparent from an education perspective of, here's the tool, here's what it can do, here's how it can be used, here's how it can be misused. Let's talk through that in an educational setting. Let's set expectations around that, and then let's adhere to those expectations. I'll add on to that also, just, Microsoft, we've seen some examples, and I think there's been examples in the media as well of these tools actually having an adverse effect from an equity perspective. At least in the US, I've seen examples where students who are English language learners have been accused of plagiarizing when in fact they have not. I think there's some concerns about the accuracy of these tools, never actually reaching 100% accuracy. So, some of my personal beliefs infused in there, along with what Microsoft has been seeing.
Yeah, Dr. Imad, do you want to add any thoughts about cheating, plagiarism, the detection tools, and even how to minimize cheating?
Yes, in fact, I can see that there is a solution for this problem. The first triangle solution. The first one is detection programs, and we have in RCQE touch programs for detecting searches which are presented to us. The second one is ethics should be learned in educational institutions, whether schools or universities. Ethics in general should be controlling our behavior. The third one, and it is very important, is that we have to rethink about we should not learn to have the certification and the certifications as a paper, not a paper for proving that this student has a certain competencies of skills.
Thanks, Dr. Imad. If you can hear us right now, I think your video is frozen. So, but those were great points. I'd like to add some thoughts as well about these tools. Patrick is right. These tools are not perfect by any means. So, Dr. Imad, your video was frozen, so I moved on.
Yes.
Yeah, but thank you for your insights. So I was sharing that even if these detection tools were 100% perfect, I still, as a teacher, wouldn't want to use them because it creates a dynamic where the teacher is like a police officer and the students are like criminals. And I would hate, even if the tools were perfect, I would hate to create that dynamic where they're trying to, find new ways to get around the tool. And I'm using new and better tools. And it's like this constant race, an elevation of a police state in the classroom. That's not learning. That's just not learning. So even if they were perfect, I wouldn't suggest using them. Now, I do understand the reality that teachers, students might be using them in improper ways. And I think, like Dr. Imad said and Dr. Fatima said, we need to have guidance and like really teach these kids how to use them properly, like Patrick said. And that's the solution, not using the tools. And if a teacher does use the tools, I know teachers out there might be using those tools. Just understand that you put yourself at risk as well, because if the tool is wrong and you accuse a kid of cheating, that really harms the student and harms your relationship with the student. You open yourself up to parents complaining and actually having good reason for complaining as well. So really be very careful about using those tools. I think that's a lesson here. There's another question about when we should introduce generative AI tools and at what age or what stage of students' learning should we even be introducing these tools? Now, there's two sides of this. There's the introducing of the tool, and there's the teaching about AI. When should we even start in the process, and how do we do that in an age-appropriate way? We're going to start off with Dr. Imad and hope that Dr. Imad's video stays solid. Dr. Imad, when would you suggest that teachers start talking about AI? Not maybe using the tools, just talking about AI with students. Oh, you're on mute, Dr. Imad. Or could someone unmute Dr.
If you could please unmute.
Thank you. I think that teaching the AI or using permitting students to use the AI is critical and important and will be done someday. But we have to introduce it gradually. The first step is to keep the students not يعني if we concentrated on education as it was in the past, so they will use AI for cheating and so on. But if we change the philosophy of education to be concentrated on the new 21st century skills and competencies such as creativity, innovation, critical thinking, problem solving, there will be another use of after presenting such competencies, we can introduce the AI. They will use the AI correctly and as a means, not an end in itself.
Yep. Thank you, Dr. Imad. Zed, I want to bring you on. Zed, the question of when to introduce these tools and how to introduce these tools. Do you have any insights? Oh, Zed's figuring out the technical issues. Zed, we'll come back to you. But Patrick, when would you say we should start introducing the tools themselves? Let's start with that for you, Patrick. Like Copilot.
I think it should be used in parallel because, as I said, that education cannot be in remote world outside of the real world. So if we use AI in real life, so it should be used in education. But how? I suppose that education presents the competencies for a new world of education or a new paradigm of education, and so they will use the tools, the AI tools, will be used for the correct purpose. I think so. It is problematic somehow, but we can consider about it. I think we cannot make education in a remote world. It is interaction with the real world. Real world has its AI use, so it can be used in education, but in a way that it could be creative, innovative, and suitable to a new idea.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Imad. Patrick, when should we, is there guidance on when to introduce like tools like Copilot in like an education sequence or like at an age level or a grade level or grade range?
I think, yeah, it's a good question, Pat. I think guidance is still kind of being thought through and crafted on specific age levels to introduce different tools. I'd say as it relates to the concepts of, really just teaching students about AI and what it is, I see that as part of a foundational computer science education. And Microsoft and Code.org and others have been working for years on that particular issue of foundational computer science and equitable access and participation in that. And certainly see that as something that should start at the elementary ages, right, in terms of exposure and helping students feel included in computer science education, and with AI being a component of a foundational computer science education and responsible AI and AI literacy that we've been talking to. But that said, from a tools perspective, it really does vary depending on the tool. The tool Reading Coach that I mentioned is applicable in elementary school settings. It's helping students learn how to read, but it has very specific guardrails set in place where the user experience for the student, it's not like a Copilot where they're prompting in an empty box and the world is their oyster. It is very controlled, very safe, and very limited in terms of how the students can customize the reading content that's generated. So that very appropriate from our perspective at an elementary age level, whereas a co-pilot, not as much. You need the literacy and supports and parental approval in certain instances for students to even be using these tools in the first place when it comes to more publicly available chatbots or tools like Copilot.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's important that agencies like the National E-Learning Center in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia are providing those guidelines for like when tools like a Copilot should be introduced and what are those policies. So I would recommend teachers from all around the world, if you're listening to this, you have to check with your local and national policies. And if you're one of those local or national policymakers and you don't have those policies, you need to create those policies. And then lastly, I want to echo what Patrick said. Sometimes we overgeneralize questions about AI, like when should AI tools be used? Well, like Patrick noted, it depends on what the AI tool is. And if it's an open like chatbot, that's a very different thing than something like Microsoft's Reading Coach. So always keep that in mind as well. I'd like to actually share a slide that I use to talk about how and when to talk about AI, and it depends on and how to do it at different stages of development. And so, so in the US we use kindergarten to second grade, but this is basically early primary school. The thing to do at an early stage is to show that AI is not a real person. And so what the problem is when students think that AI is a real person or it's like human-like, they're not able to put its outputs into perspective and understand how to use it responsibly because they're looking at it from an incorrect lens, and that breeds lots of misconceptions about AI. So you want to show that AI is not a real person at that very, very early stage. And then, at upper elementary, you want to focus on problem solving, yes, but also even how to formulate problems, meaning how to state problems, how to understand problems before you even get to problem solving. And by the way, that idea of structuring problems is actually going to be more and more significant in an age of AI because we're going to have tools that do a lot of the problem solving aspects for us, but we still need people who are able to structure the problems so that tools can be used appropriately. And then as you get into lower secondary, you need to focus on students' critical thinking skills, really evaluating everything and evaluating what tool to use, evaluating the output of the tools, evaluating everything. And then lastly, students at the highest levels can really get deep into how AI works and its limitations. And in fact, you can do some of that probably even at early stages as well. So those are just some ideas. And again, I shared this slide in my LinkedIn post that people had access to early on. Dr. Al-Qahtani, this issue of stages of development what do you think about like the youngest grades and their interactions with AI, and what do you does the e-learning center cover e-learning even at the earliest ages?
So the National E-Learning Center is aiming the K-12 and the early education stages, and also trying to set rules and the policies for using generative AI as well for them. So I think generative AI tools can be introduced to them when they have the ability. I think it depends on the community awareness and how well they are prepared and introduced to generative AI tools. And when the students and K-12 segments has the ability to grasp the basic knowledge and concepts and ethical consideration of generative AI tools and AI tools in general, at this stage, I think they can understand and experiment with simple and generative AI tools under guidance, of course. and under the as you mentioned, the policies and the guidance by the country, and then explore more advanced applications, focusing on both, keeping in mind both technical aspects and ethical aspects as well, and ethical impacts. So I think the early exposure for students ensure that they are well prepared to use these tools in responsible way and in a creative way, and ensure that they're aligning with the entities' guidelines and policies as well.
Thank you very much. I'm just gonna conclude here because we're running out of time, and say that, you know, with all of this talk about AI and even young students, we always have to keep in mind that there are fundamental skills that students need to learn and need to do without any assistance of these AI tools, because the process of even learning these things helps kids develop that foundation by which they can actually use the tools maybe even better. But they still have to develop some level of foundation. And actually, it's a very exciting time in education to figure out, what do we emphasize, but also what do we de-emphasize, and what do we change about how we teach, but also what we teach. So with that, I'm going to bring back Zaid Al-Raqib to close us out. Thank you on behalf of Patrick, Dr. Imad, Dr. Fatma. You know, we were really excited to be here with you all today. Thank you for sticking with us. Zaid.
Today's sessions stand as a testament to the power of shared knowledge and engagement, and we are profoundly thankful for your presence. We trust that the insights discussed provided value to each of you. Our gratitude extends to Pat Young-Bradett, whose moderation skills navigated us through this webinar discussion, and our esteemed panelists, whose expertise significantly enriched our dialogue. Equally, the active participation of every attendee has been integral to the success of this discussion. As we close, we turn our focus to continual improvement and growth. A survey link has been provided in the chat section, and we invite you to share your feedback and suggestions. This input is crucial as we strive to elevate our content and ensure future sessions are even more impactful. In conclusion, your time and attention has been greatly appreciated. We eagerly anticipate your participation in future discussions, where we will continue to explore exciting and relevant topics. For now, from all of us at the National E-Learning Center, I'm Zaid Al-Raqib. Goodbye.